ओम शांति। सभी को ओम शांति का मंत्र तो पक्का हो ही गए हैं। अभी अभी गीत हम सुन रहे थे।
I was just listening to the song,
तो उसमें लाइन बहुत अच्छी थी
and there was a very beautiful line in the song
कि हम किस्मत यानी भाग्य के धनी है। धनी कहते हैं जिसके पास बहुत धन होता है ना, तो उसको कहते हैं धनी।
we are a treasure store of fortune.
तो गीत की लाइन थी,
And so the line of the song
तो हम किस्मत के धनी हैं।
that we are treasure stores
तो
of
हर एक
fortune.
अपने आप को देखे
Each one should look at
कि
himself or
भाग्य तो हम
herself,
सबको मिला है।
that we've all received our
भाग्य
fortune
विधाता
because
हमें मिला है।
we found the bestower
तो
of
भाग्य
fortune.
विधाता क्या देगा?
And what is the bestower of fortune going to give us? Our fortune,
भाग्य
isn't
तो
he?
हमको सबको बांटा है।
So he's distributed fortune to all of
बाबा
us.
के पास तो भाग्य का बहुत बड़े ते बड़ा भंडार है।
Because Baba has a huge, the
इसलिए
biggest
सभी को
treasure store.
बड़ी दिल से बांटा है।
And so he's distributed the fortune with a
लेकिन
big and
जो
generous
बाबा ने तो
heart.
बांटा है बड़ी दिल
But
से,
Baba has distributed this fortune with a
हमने
generous heart.
उस भाग्य को प्राप्त कर
How much have we attained
कितना उस
those
भाग्य की
treasures and that
खुशी में
fortune?
रहते हैं,
And
नशे
how
में
much
रहते हैं,
do we remain in the
निश्चय
happiness
में
and the
रहते हैं।
intoxication and the faith of having found such a
पहले
fortune?
फाउंडेशन है निश्चय।
The first foundation is faith,
भगवान द्वारा हमको भाग्य मिला है।
that through God I have
भाग्य
received my
विधाता ही
fortune.
हमारा दाता है।
The bestower of fortune is my
ये
bestower.
निश्चय है,
There is this faith, first
तो
of all.
नशा भी होगा।
Then there will also be
आज
intoxication as a
रवा जी
result.
देखो किसको लॉटरी मिलती है।
Look what happens today.
चाहे
What if
कितनी भी
somebody
छोटी
wins
हो,
the
बड़ी हो
lottery?
लॉटरी,
Even if it's a small
लेकिन
lottery in
लॉटरी का
number
भी
or a big
नशा होता
lottery,
है।
but yet that person experiences the
आज
intoxication of having
स्थूल में
won a
कोई भी
lottery.
प्राप्ति होती है,
In the physical sense,
प्राप्ति
when
का
you
नशा
achieve
जरूर
anything,
होता है।
then you experience the intoxication of
तो
having achieved
निश्चय
something.
है तो नशा भी है,
So if there is faith, then there is
और
definitely
नशा है
intoxication.
तो खुशी जरूर होगी।
And if there is intoxication, then there will definitely be
तो
happiness.
हम भी अपने आप को देखें।
So let me look at myself.
एक है जानना,
One is to know myself.
दूसरी स्टेज है मानना,
Second is to
और
accept myself.
तीसरी स्टेज है मान करके चलना।
And thirdly is having
तो
accepted
तीनों
myself
में से
to move
हमारी
along on the
स्टेज
basis
क्या
of that acceptance. So out of these three stages, let me
मानने
check
तक
myself.
है,
Where am I? Have I only
जानने
just
तक
come,
है,
have I come up to just knowing
या
myself, or have
चलने
I
तक है।
accepted myself, or am I moving along on the basis of those two?
प्रैक्टिकल मालूम पड़ता है चलन
Because practically,
और चेहरे से।
everything
ये
is
दर्पण है,
reflected through your face and your behavior.
इसको भी
They act as a mirror.
पहचानना है,
If you want to
तो
recognize
आप किस
anyone,
दर्पण से जान सकते हैं
then
ये
what
कैसे
mirror will you
रहते हैं।
use to recognize
अपने
a
आप को
person?
भी और दूसरे को भी।
Be it yourself or be it someone
चेहरे
else,
और
it'll be the
चलन से।
face and it'll be the behavior. They will act as a
तो
mirror.
शुरू में
So in the
बाबा ने
beginning,
सुनाया था
Baba would tell us,
कि कोई आपसे पूछे
if somebody
कि
asks you,
आपका हालचाल क्या है,
how are you?
कोई भी किससे मिलता है
When
तो
somebody
ये
meets
पूछता
someone,
है
the
क्या
first thing they
हाल है,
ask is, how are you?
क्या चाल है।
What's happening?
तो अगर कोई पूछे
And
आपसे
so if somebody is to
कि
ask you,
आपका हालचाल क्या है,
how are you?
तो आप क्या बताएंगे?
Then what are you going to say?
हमारा हाल क्या है? खुशहाल।
What is our state is one of happiness. We are happy, full of
सभी
happiness.
खुशहाल है,
So are all of you happy?
और बाबा कभी भी याद प्यार देता है ना,
And then
अभी
Baba,
बाबा
Avyakt Baba, whenever Baba gives Yad Pyar, love and remembrances, then he uses one word a lot.
वो शब्द है सदा।
That word is Sada. constantly.
तो सदा हमारा खुशहाल है.
So is our happiness
और
constant?
चाल पूछते हैं तो फरिश्ते की चाल.
And when they ask about our state,
तो ये
is our
भी
happiness
चलन
constant?
और
When they
चेहरे से
ask
पता
about
पड़ता है.
how we move, do we move like an angel?
अगर हमारे चलन में
So our
फरिश्तापन
happiness and our angelic form
पहली निशानी
is visible
फरिश्तेपन
through
की
our
है,
face
डबल
and
लाइट.
behavior. The first sign of an angel is to be double light.
चलेगा ऐसे जैसे चल रहा है या हो रहा है.
An angel will
उस
walk in
नशे
such a
में
way that
कोई
even
ऐसे
whilst they're
नहीं पाँव
walking,
ऊपर हो
it'll be as if
गिरता
they're
हो.
flying. It's not that they're off the ground,
लेकिन जैसे
but they have
कॉफी से
such
भी बहुत होता है
intoxication.
ना,
They're full of such the
खुशी
happiness
उसके
and the
चेहरे पर ऐसी
intoxication of such
चमकती है,
happiness.
झलकती है.
And that
हम
happiness is
कहते हैं ये तो
sparkling
उड़
and
रहा
shimmering
है,
on their faces that when
तो
others see
पाँव से
such a
नहीं
person,
उड़ता.
they'll feel that this one is
लेकिन
flying. So it's not that they're
उसकी
physically flying,
ऊंची स्टेज है
but
तो
it's because of their
उड़ने में क्या
elevated and
होता है
high
फिसल.
stage that others experience them to be flying.
तो बाबा भी कहते हैं
So Baba says
कि फरिश्ते की चाल माना डबल लाइट.
that the movement of a farishta, an angel,
दो
is to be
चीजों
double
का होता
light.
है.
We experience heaviness
किसी भी
because of
जीवन
two
में,
things.
चाहे अज्ञान में चाहे
And
ज्ञान,
it may be in knowledge
दो
or
चीजों
without
का
knowledge.
होता है.
Whatever life is led, usually
वो
we
चेक
experience
करें.
heaviness due to two things.
एक
And we
है
need to check these two things.
पुराने
First
संसार की आकर्षण.
is the attraction of the old world.
संसार में सब आ गया.
Everything comes
संबंध भी आ
in the
गया,
word
पदार्थ
world.
भी आ गया.
Our relationships, our possessions,
संसार में जो भी कुछ है,
whatever exists in the world,
संसार की, पुराने संसार की, नए संसार की तो अच्छी.
and it's not, we're talking about the old world, not the new world. The old world, when there is the attraction of anything in the old world, there's people, situations, relationships, connections. They may be lokik or alokik connections. The alokik relationships, the attraction of alokik relationships are no less either. And then the second aspect that brings heaviness are our sanskars. After coming into Gyan, whilst moving along, we are often stopped by our sanskaras. Our obstacles are created by our own sanskaras. In other words, the sanskara can also be called our nature. Or another word that we can use for this is that it's not what we mean, it's not our meaning, but it just happened. We didn't mean to do this or say this, but it just happened. This tells us that whatever sanskara we have is moving us and is making us heavy. It's a burden on us. And so we have two burdens, the attraction of the old world and of our old sanskaras. And so we need to check inside ourselves. Is there any kind of attraction towards the old world or old sanskaras? You can feel this for yourself. Check this for yourself. If anyone else tries to make you realize, you won't realize to that extent. But if you look inside and check your mind will accept. And yes, your mind accepts there's an attraction. I do understand inside that subtly I have this subtle weakness. But if somebody points it out to me, that you have a little bit, even if somebody gives me a signal in a royal way, that just check yourself a little bit in this aspect. Nowadays, nobody can listen to anything, any straight directions. If somebody was to give somebody was to give straight directions, the person opposite would turn around and give back even greater directions. So Baba says, don't give directions, don't give teachings, but remain in the form of being of forgiveness and then give teachings.
क्योंकि देखा जाता है कि 63 जन्म के जो देह भान के संस्कार है ना,
For 63 births, we've accumulated the sanskaras of body consciousness. And it's these sanskaras of body consciousness that work from time to time in the form of Maya. And Baba has said these sanskaras will emerge in a royal form. They will not come in the gross form. They won't attract you in their gross form. But the time now is they will be attractive in their subtle form. And the language will be, this is okay. What is it in this anyway? This happens anyway. And so Baba says, you now understand the gross form of the vices. We know them and Maya knows them too. That if I go to them in my gross form, they're clever. They've already recognized the gross form of the vices. So now the sanskaras dress themselves up in a royal form, in a subtle form. So you won't experience anger, gross anger, let's say. But sometimes, amongst yourselves, let's say somebody gets a good opportunity, and when you see that person, you'll say, well, I don't have jealousy, but maybe I should get a chance as well. I should get a chance. But when you ask, you don't receive anything by just asking. Our activity, our behavior, our face, that will automatically help us to create our fortune. You don't receive anything by just asking for something. Some say, I should receive a little bit of respect from someone, from this person maybe. Baba has said, those who ask for respect, they will never finish their desire for receiving respect. They will always seek it, and they will never feel fulfilled. Respect is automatically received on the basis of your face, your activity, and your behavior. If you want respect, then if we give respect, then in return we will receive respect. If we remain stable in our self-respect, then we will automatically receive respect. So we have to note this now. That in my angelic life, am I experiencing any kind of subtle burden in any way whatsoever? If there is a burden, then it won't let me become a farishta, an angel. Because a farishta, the meaning of farishta, is that no matter what activity such a one does, there is lightness in that activity. There is a feeling of lightness in that activity, in interactions and relationships. Even when we come into connection and relationship within the Brahmin family, there is lightness. There is lightness in our nature. Just as sometimes we say, well, what can I do? My nature is like that. What can I do? So we become heavy with our own nature. We don't want something to happen, but it happens anyway. And then we say, well, what can we do? It's our nature anyway. My swabhav, my nature is like that. I don't mean it. my intentions are good, but this is my
इसी
nature.
कारण से
And so it's because of this
फरिश्ता जिसके दिल में
that I can't experience the stage of a farishta.
कभी भी
A
पुराने
farishta
संस्कार की
is one
संकल्प के रूप में भी आकर्षण,
in whose heart there is no attraction, even in thoughts, towards any old sanskaras.
फरिश्ता माना कोई भी
A farishta
पुराने
means
संस्कार की अटैक दिल में नहीं.
there is no attack of any old sanskaras on the heart.
तो उसको उसकी दिल में क्यों बाबा बैठे?
Why? Because in a farishta's heart there is only Baba sitting.
यहाँ इंडिया में तो आप लोगों ने भी देखे हैं मंदिर यहाँ.
You've seen the temples here in India. Whatever temples there are,
उसमें आप देखो मूर्ति को जहाँ भी बिठाएंगे
wherever they place a murti is an image,
सफाई करेंगे.
it's a stone idol, they'll wash it, they'll place incense sticks near it, because it's an image, a murti. If you go into any temple and you think and you see that there isn't cleanliness, then you'll say, well, this temple isn't good, it's not worthy of having this idol or this image in the temple. And so in order to allow Baba to be seated in our heart and to be merged in our heart, then just think, if there is the slightest bit of attraction to the old world and the old sanskaras, then that's dust and that's rubbish in our hearts, isn't it? How do you think Baba can stay in such an environment? Either it'll be the attraction of the old world and the old sanskaras, or it'll be Baba. Both can't stay together. Okay, sometimes Baba will help. He will give help. But what is that anyway? So the heart of a farishta is a heart in which Baba is constantly seated. And if Baba is seated in the heart, then where will remembrance remain? Remembrance is merged in our heart. Baba is seated in our heart. There's nothing else in our heart, so there's no question of having remembrance. And if you don't remember Baba, who else are you going to remember? You won't have to make the effort to remember, but there will be the automatic experience of natural remembrance, because there's nothing else in our heart except Baba. I've made Baba sit in my heart. Nobody else can sit in my heart. They say it anyway, that wherever there is the Father, Bap, there can be no sin, Bap. And wherever there is sin, Bap, the Father cannot remain. So let me check in my heart. Okay, the mind may experience waste thoughts, but that has an impact on the heart. They may not be bad or negative, but they're waste. And Mama had explained one time to us very well that waste thoughts have 5 doors of entry. And it's these doors that waste thoughts enter from. If you close these 5 doors, then you will never have any waste thoughts. The doors of entry of waste thoughts, the first door is the door of the question, why? Just think about it. If you've had any waste thoughts, I'm sure all of you will have experienced a lot of waste thoughts. Just observe them. The first question that arises is why? Why this? When you say why, Q, then a Q forms. One is Q, why. The second is kya, what. The third is who. Fourth is when. Until when will this karmic account continue? And the fifth is how. Kyun, kya, kab, kaise, kaun. Why, what, how, when, where. These five begin with ka, Q, and who makes the noise of a crow. Constantly, it's the crows that come and perch themselves on the window and make a very harsh sound. Together with this, Mama said to us, put the crow to one side. On the other side, place a swan. What will you like? Will you like the crow or will you like the swan? So Mama used to explain this to us when we were little. Mama said, if you become a crow, then just think about it. You're Baba's child. Who are you? And you've become a crow by asking Kyu, Kya, Kaise. And so Mama would explain to us in this way to help us to see Maya. Look at the swan. The swan has a great power of discrimination. And Baba now says to us, you're not just a swan, but you're a holy swan. Hants. A holy hants in Hindi. So the speciality of a hants is the power of discrimination. It's able to separate the jewels from the stones. It will never pick stones. So we are holy swans. So these doors of waste thoughts, we need to close these doors. If the word why enters, then Baba asks the question, how come the question of why has arisen in your mind? What is your title? Your title is of being Trikaldarshi, the knower of the three aspects of time. We say this, don't we? That this is our self-respect to be Trikaldarshi. So if we are Trikaldarshi, we know the three aspects of time, then we know what is good and what creates loss for us. How can somebody who is Trikaldarshi even have a question arise in their mind about why? And you know that you have to settle your karmic accounts here, so why do you have to ask, who is this, why are they here, what is this? So each one of us has to close this gate, the gate of why. Be Trikaldarshi and understand why this is happening. Okay, let's say there's a karmic account that's been forged and it's a bitter account with somebody. Okay, we may have finished our account in words and physically, but maybe in the mind there is the experience of this karmic bondage, this karmic account. And yes, we will consider it and accept it to be a bitter account, but when are we going to settle it? If there's a slightest bit of karmic accounts left, then just imagine, just for example, when you enter the airport, there's customs. If you bring in any goods illegally, you get caught. You can't go through the green channel.
लाल में अटकना पड़ेगा.
You have to stop at the red channel.
तो यहाँ भी ऐसे है.
And so it's the same here as well.
लाल लाइट में अटक जाना.
When you stop in the red channel,
राज की पुरी का जरूर नजारा क्रॉस करना पड़े.
then you will definitely have to cross the river of Dharamraj. There won't be a green light there. The experience of holding Baba's hand and moving across.
लेकिन ब्रह्मा बाबा शिव बाबा के साथ हम सीधा ही साथ में परम धाम में पहुंच जाए.
There won't be the experience of holding Baba's hand, Brahma Baba's hand, Shiv Baba's hand, and experiencing them to take us straight to Paramdham. So when we engage and we allow these waste thoughts to enter, then we get stuck in the red channel and we have to experience Dharamraj. And so Baba gives us a signal that if anything happens, it will happen suddenly. Baba's told us this as well. Baba had said there was a huge gathering in Diamond Hall, and Baba said, okay, look, there's such a huge gathering here, and even if in 5 or 10 minutes there's going to be destruction, I'm not going to tell you about it. It's going to happen suddenly. So just think about it. If something is going to happen suddenly, and my burden of waste thoughts is still there, and if this burden, if I'm still experiencing this burden, then how on earth am I going to become an angel? If there's any kind of burden, and our burden is left behind, and we're carrying a burden, do you think that's going to let us move forward? What does an angel do? An angel flies. So if there's any kind of slight burden of waste thoughts, of my sanskaras, of any kind of attraction, any subtle burden, then we won't be able to go with Baba. We'll have to stop in between. For example, if somebody hides something and brings it in, what do you think their condition will be? They'll be stopped. Police will catch them and will treat them very severely. In fact, they beat them up so badly. And this is why Baba says, check yourself. Because we've got sanskaras of body consciousness from 63 births. Okay, let's say something happens, either in connection. Let's say someone's given us a signal. In a royal way, they've given us a signal about our sanskaras. And yes, we understand that it's wrong, what we've done is wrong. It's not right. But, it's okay. It happens anyway, doesn't it? Or if somebody says something, then you say, well, Daddy, okay, it's right. But Daddy, because this person said this, then I had to say it back to them. Or, Daddy, they said something, they said so much, but I had to say something in return. I only said one word in return. And so they try to shift the blame onto someone else, to try and avoid accepting responsibility for their actions. They shift the blame onto someone else. This is a sanskara of body consciousness. This is what occurs because we've carried this sanskara for 63 births. And so even if a trace of this sanskara remains, we endeavor to carry it on in its royal form, excuse it in this way, and carry it, that it's okay. I just did a little bit. And it's this sanskara that will deceive us according to the time.
तो बाबा ने कहा ना, तो जो अभी समझो बात को चलाएगा.
So let's say, okay, you've excused yourself from taking responsibility. And what will Daddy say? Daddy will say, well, okay, I've given you a signal, now it's up to them, it's their fortune. But if this sanskara continues of excusing yourself in this way and excusing your own sanskara, then Baba will also make you move in the same way. You won't receive your inheritance for 21 births. You will also be excused from receiving your attainments from Baba. Baba's no less. However much effort you make, to that extent you will receive the reward. You won't come into the royal family first of all, you'll come later. And so today, nowadays, according to Baba's wave, this is what the wave that Baba's asking us to check on. The soul is its own friend and its own enemy. Check yourself in these aspects. And Baba's asking us to make intense effort. What is the meaning of intense effort? To finish any kind of subtle attraction to the old world and old sanskara now. Don't just say, oh, well, in the last bit, this is just the last bit left, I just have a little bit left and it'll be finished by the end. No. Baba says two things about this. One is that God has given you these teachings and you haven't become complete on the basis of God's teachings, but time has made you complete. So who is your teacher? Is it God or is it time? Is it Shiv Baba? Or is it time? Time is your creation. So, your teacher, is it the creation or is it the creator? Who is your teacher? Is it time? If I consider that, oh, I just have a little bit left, it'll be alright by the end, and you try and console yourself in this way, where you can't become complete now, you can't be perfect now anyway, yeah, there's a little bit always left. You console yourself in this way. Baba doesn't speak to you like this, but you speak to yourself like this. This indicates that time is your teacher. And then secondly, Baba cautions us that if you haven't made effort over a long period of time, then how will you receive your kingdom in the future for a long period of time? When we sit in yoga, we think, today I have to be a lighthouse and a might house and give light and might. And then in between, a waste thought enters. Whatever it may be an aspect of the past, and it may come in the form of a thought. Why does it enter? Even when we don't want it to enter, we battle against it to prevent it from coming, yet why does it come? You all have had this experience, have you not? Why does it enter? Because it's a sanskara that we've created over a long period of time for 63 births. And it's that sanskara having been created over a long period of time that comes in the form of obstacle. And so just think about it. If we haven't had the experience of elevated effort over a long period of time, then we will be deceived at the end. Look at it. Look at your yoga practically. Our thoughts deceive us. Our sanskaras deceive us. The sanskaras that have been created over a long period of time. So if we haven't made effort in the right way over a long period of time, then these old sanskaras will deceive us at the end. This is why Baba says, don't become loose in this. Don't be careless or make even the slightest mistake in this respect. To the extent that you move forward in this Brahmin life, there are two things that come in a royal form. One is a royal form of carelessness, and second is a royal form of laziness. And they come in the form of waste thoughts. They won't come in the form of waste thoughts or body consciousness or a gross form of anger, but royal carelessness. Baba had asked us to have a sharing about what are the various forms of the royal forms of carelessness. So check. Is there anything that is remaining, that is left over from a long period of time, an old sanskara that's been created over a long period of time? Is there any slightest trace of it left? The new year is about to begin. And there have been some wonderful yuktis been created from Madhuban, the 10 steps of Brahma Baba. Whether you've received them or not. Keep in mind every step of Baba's. He's reached his destination with having taken a step at a time. And so every step that Baba's taken, it's in those steps that we have to place our steps. We just have to follow. We don't have to think for ourselves in any way at all. Baba had says, place your footsteps in my steps. You just have to place your foot in my step. And so, Brahma Baba's 10 steps, there is a list that has emerged from Madhuban. I read it and I liked it very much. There should always be a good. We do need some newness in our efforts, and so it's always good to have a method like this. One time Baba had spoken a murli on Brahma Baba's footsteps, following in the father's footsteps. And so this is why we have to look at our own efforts. We have to look at our own self. It's between me and Baba. We say this anyway, that Baba is our world. And what is there in our world? What is there in the world? Everything. So if Baba is our world, then everything is merged in our world. And I have to imbibe Baba's sanskaras like Baba. And it's when I place my steps in his steps that I'll be able to imbibe sanskaras like Baba. And this is why Baba says, don't look at others. Pardarshan means to look at others. There are 3 aspects in which we look outside. And the word in Hindi is par, anything to do with an external influence. And Baba had once said, cut these 3 words beginning with par. The first is pardarshan, looking at others, parchintan, thinking about others, and parmat, following the dictates of others. Sometimes paramat causes us a great loss. If we have to use the word par, then let it be for the benefit of everyone. Par upakar. Let me do what I do for the benefit of others. When I'm busy in engaging in benefiting others, then pardarshan, parchintan and parmat will finish. Because once I'm busy, then everything else is finished. When someone's free, then waste enters. But if one is busy, then there won't be any unnecessary or waste thoughts created. And so I have to remain busy in the task of benefiting and uplifting others, par upakari. And so Baba constantly is giving us new ways of making effort. We actually waste a lot of time when we think about others, look at others and follow the dictates of others. Baba had once made a little complaint to the children. He said, these children, when they have a very good vision to look in a great distance, but they don't have very good vision to look at themselves. They don't have very good near-sighted vision. And long-distance vision is very sharp. They have very good vision for looking at others, but not very good vision for looking at themselves. And it's because we have this sanskara over a long period of time, for 63 births, that it interferes in between the sanskara of looking at others, pardarshan. And so check yourself in between constantly. Many brothers and sisters say, we remain very busy in our lokik life, alokik life. We don't have any time. We don't have any time to check ourselves. And I said to someone, do you drink water? Do you take some time to drink water in between? Of course, no matter how busy you are, you must stop for a glass of water. You do stop for a glass of water, don't you? Yes, we do stop for a glass of water. How often do you drink a glass of water in the day? Maybe 5 or 6 times. So at the time of even drinking a glass of water, you'll get up from where you are, you'll pick up a glass, you'll fill it with water, and then you'll drink it. It's okay, it's a habit to drink water. Your glass will automatically reach the lips, it won't go to the nose. It's a habit, it's a natural habit we have of drinking water. It's going to take at least a minute to drink that water. And we've got to check our own account, we've got to check ourselves. So in 1 minute, check yourself. You've got that time to check yourself, isn't it? You don't have to check anyone else. You've got to create your own account. So even in that 1 minute of drinking that glass of water, you can check yourself. Because if you take this time now in between to check yourself constantly, then what will happen is we'll save time later. Let's say after 4 hours you've checked yourself. But we've had 4 hours of ordinary effort. Let's say we've had 4 hours of ordinary stage and effort. And if we've had 4 hours of ordinary effort, and it's not been bad, but those 4 hours won't come back into our hands again, will they? They will be marked in our register as ordinary effort. They won't return back to us again. If we check after every hour, then okay, a whole hour has gone, but at least we've saved 3 hours. And this is why Baba says, become your own checker and become your own maker. That is, change yourself, transform yourself. Check yourself and change yourself. If you just check yourself, then you'll become disheartened. Well, my fortune is like this, and some will become Maharatis, some will become infantry, Nobody's going to come into the same number in the rosary. There'll be 108, there'll be number wise, and someone will become number 108, or 16,108. And I may have a part in this. And so if you just check, you may become disheartened. We have to be careful not to become disheartened. Baba is with us here and now. Baba says, you take one step of courage and I am bound to you to take the next 1,000 steps. This is God's offer to you. And if we don't use God's offer, then what else are we going to say except drama? But no, we have to use every minute in a worthwhile way. We have to use every thought in a worthwhile way. This is what time is telling us now, because everything is going to happen suddenly. Now look, it's been 70 years now. Many have come in these 70 years. Nobody has played the part in creation. There has been the time for the creation of the whole yajna, and then many have come later. Sangam Yug is a small age. And in this small age, if our time is cut even further, then how much of a reward can we claim in the future? So there needs to be a great deal of attention to every moment of this time now, so that we can accumulate as much as possible. Baba says, you have to pay attention, but don't pay the kind of attention that turns into tension. Some pay attention in such a way that they experience the tension of having attention. And so don't maintain a tension-based attention. We are angels. All I say is just keep Baba seated in your heart. Keep it simple. Because whatever is in your heart, that will reflect itself in your activity and behavior. We have all recognized Baba. And Baba has also given us a certificate. That every one of my children is a special child, is a few out of multi-millions. Out of all these millions, there have been few out of a few that have recognized me and said, Mera Baba, my Baba. So Baba has given us this certificate of recognition. Once the soul says, my Baba, then the soul is recognized. Then there is a percentage to which that recognition is reflected in our behavior, in our face, in our efforts, in our dharana. But the recognition is there. Whose vision has fallen on you? So we definitely have received one certificate for sure, and that's the certificate of recognizing Baba by saying, my Baba. These are definitely my special children. And so what are the VIPs in front of such special children? They are like Buddhus. They haven't recognized Baba, but these special children have. They may be ordinary, they may not have had an education, but they are special children because they've received the eyes to recognize God. This is not a small thing. So we've definitely received this one certificate of recognizing God. But Baba says there's a lot of other certificates to claim as well. Baba had once said, each one needs to claim 3 certificates. One
उल्टा मन पसंद नहीं,
is the certificate of being content with the self.
अपनी पूरी checking करके
Not a
कोई
false
काम
sense
नहीं
of contentment, but a contentment that comes from a real, deep, honest checking that yes, I'm okay.
बाप
The second certificate, certificate of contentment from the Father, and a third certificate,
परिवार की
certificate of
नहीं, ऐसे
contentment
कहते
from
हैं,
the family.
बाबा से काम है क्या,
Even
आदमी
sometimes there are souls that says, oh, I have
बाबा से
connection with
काम
Shiv
है,
Baba, I
हो
don't
जाता
need the
है बाबा
family, it's
बस।
just Baba, Baba.
हमारा सिर्फ धर्म थोड़ी है, हमारी राजधानी भी स्थापन हो रही
We're not just establishing a religion here, we're establishing a kingdom as well.
है। अगर
And
सिर्फ
so the
बाबा बाबा
certificate
जब
has to
अपन
be
को
claimed
पहचान
from the
लिया,
family
बाबा को
now.
पहचान लिया, ज्ञान बहुत अच्छा होता
Okay,
है,
I've recognized Baba, I like Gyan, and I'm making good effort.
ये परिवार भी क्या,
But what is
बाबा
Brahma Baba anyway?
सर्टिफिकेट कईयों का हो जाता है, लेकिन परिवार के खिटखिट में
Okay, maybe some will even like Brahma Baba, but they may experience some tension in the family, and so they think, well, why should we keep a connection with the family anyway? We have a connection with Baba, we make good effort, we know Gyan.
माला में किसका
And Baba
समझूं,
asks such a soul,
दाने का
do
दाने
you
से
want to
मेरा
come
है
into the
या किसका
rosary?
हो जाऊं,
In the rosary, a bead has a connection with another
दादी
bead,
गुलजार,
and each of the beads have a connection with the dual bead.
माला का
Each
मंत्र
bead is
बनना
connected to
है,
each other. So if
तो
you want to
मन
become a
मन
bead of the
मन
rosary,
किसका कनेक्शन मन कैसे होता है,
a bead is
अगर
connected
थोड़ा
to
बीच
another
में
bead.
धागा होगा तो माला नहीं अच्छी लगती है,
If there is any break in between,
वो
then you
मन का
can't
मन
make a
कर्मों
proper
में
rosary.
परिवार हुआ ना,
And so, what is the
और राजी
connection of a
थी,
bead with each bead?
अच्छा
It's the
बाबा से
connection with the
कनेक्शन है,
family,
बाबा
isn't it?
राजा बनेगा और आपको ही देखता रहेगा तख्त पर,
The
राजधानी
connection with
होगी,
the dual bead is our connection with
परिवार
Baba.
तो चाहिए